Hello students. So what we're going to do today, we are going to talk about Excel, right? So this is a task that was given to my students some time back and they have actually tried it. So the best way to learn about Excel, of course, just like any technical skills, is to actually try it yourself. So I hope you have tried it. However, I'm making this video guide for those who actually struggle with certain tasks maybe, or you just want to have a quick easy way to revise the some of the things that we have learned in class, right? So now that you have tried it, and then you may want to refer this to actually revise or to actually recall how to do certain tasks. Let's begin. So the first thing we're going to do is to, of course, understand the question, right? So the context given is that there's the David who uses a spreadsheet software to help keep track of his sales in his Snackshop. And we are required to finish setting up this spreadsheet for him to help him to manage his finances. So open the file, snackshop.excel. So I have that on the left side of the screen. As you can see, it's already open. And this is the data that we'll see. It's a screen capture. So yes, it's right there. It's fine. And the instruction says save your work as snacks, followed by your name, your index number. So please do that if you are doing this exercise in class so that your teachers can actually track your work a little bit better and to check your work. But since this is just a video guide, I'm not going to do that, right? So let's begin the first task. The first task says in the cell B1, enter a function that displays the current date. Very straightforward, right? Because there's a function that does exactly that. And if you know it, you just type it in, you get the marks for this task. So what is the function to get the current date? So let's look for the cell B1. It's right here, right? Follow my cursor. B1 is right there. And the function is actually just today. And you can see the tooltip actually comes out to help you. It returns the current date formatted as a date. That's exactly what we want. And at the time of recording this video, the date is the 12th of July, year 2024. First task completed and successful. Let's move on to the next task. The next task says a snack is considered cheap if it is priced at less than $1 per piece. So in the cell C12, enter the formula to calculate the average quantity sold for all the cheap snacks. So there's some snacks here: Oreo, ice cream, choco pie, Yupi gummies, Hello Panda, and salted egg chips. I'm not going to actually calculate the average of all these items, only those that is less than $1, right? And we classify them as cheap. So how do we do that? So I'm going to put my cursor right there where we're supposed to key in the formula that is in cell C12. And the formula that we can use is average. But we don't just want average, we average with a condition. So we use average if. And what is the condition, right? So the condition is that in the range under the price, which is from B5 to B10, this is the range that we want to check it out. And in this range, if it is less than 1, okay, so I'm going to put in less than 1 for the criteria, then I will actually average it, right? And the range where I'm going to average is over here from C5 to C10. And that is what we can do here. So again, average if, then I select the range where the price is, then the criteria put less than 1, and then the quantity sold. And there we go, right? If you were to use your calculator and test it out, it should be correct as well. So the average sold of the cheap snacks, which will include Oreo um, and gummies, as well as Hello Panda, the average of these three snacks will end up to be 393. Seems pretty large, but of course you can see gummies, right? Lots of gummies, 999. So that actually pull up the average quite a bit. So that's fine. So that's the task number 2. Done. Let's move on to task number 3. Now, task number 3, they want us from this entire table over here from A5 to E10. So I've highlighted. We want to use a conditional formatting to change the color of the row to green if the value is less than 1. So just like the chip snacks that we have identified as less than 1. So those rows that contain the chip snacks, we want it to be colored in green. So select the area. I'm going to go to conditional formatting. And there's some predefined one, useful ones, but I'm just going to go to new rule, right? So under the new rules, I'm going to use a formula to select which cells to format. So we're going to do it manually. So what's the formula now? The formula is going to be the price. So let's type in the price. The price is B5. Just take the first instance first, right? And this one less than 1. But if I were to do this, then they will just test it against B5 all the time. What I want to do is I want to do it row by row, right? So if I want to do it row by row, I will need to lock the column. So I use the dollar sign to lock the B5, but I'll leave the 5 open, the row open, so that when we test the condition, it goes down row by row. Then we'll format, and we want to fill it with green color. So this shade of green is good. I like it, right? So press OK. OK. There we go. So we have successfully actually just highlight the rows where it is cheap snacks, less than $1. So that will be task 3, successful. Let's go on to task 4. In task 4, the snacks that have a quantity of more than 100 is considered popular. Then after that, not popular, but more than 50 considered trending. And we want it to be displayed over here in this column D. That should be fine. And if it is neither, then we don't want to display anything. Leave it blank, right? So what we can do, we can just use a simple if, right? And if the quantity sold, so I select it, is more than 100, okay? It's more than 100, I want it to print out popular. And if it's not more than 100, then I'll test again to see if it's more than 50. So I'm test again. Okay, the cell C5, is it more than 50, right? If it's more than 50, I'm going to print out trending. So trending. And then if it is neither more than 100 nor more than 50, well, I'm going to leave it blank. I'm going to leave it blank. So just put a quotation, close the brackets, and there we go. Popular, right? So copy it down, and there we go. So only the rows with green, you will find they're either popular or trending. It makes a lot of sense, right? So those are the rows where the quantities are higher. Okay, right. Let's move on to the next task. So now we'll look at task 5. Task 5, it says as a registered business in Singapore, David has to pay GST, and the prevailing GST rate is 9%. So the GST is already included, which means that the price listed over here is actually 109%. But we want to extract out only the GST, so we only want the 9%, right? So what we can do is we can put equals, collect the price, and we want only 9 out of 109 percentage point, right? And that will give us 4 cents over here. As usual, let's copy it down. Okay, so this is the row with all the GST for each of the item. Now in the second half of the question, it says enter a formula, right? Right here in the cell E12 to calculate the total GST he needs to pay. So we need to sum it up, but we don't just want to sum it up. We also want to round it off to the nearest cent. So I'm going to round off. Okay, but first, after rounding off, what do we want to round off? We want to round off the sum. So I use the sum formula. Select it. And since the units is in dollars and they want it in nearest cents, so what we really want here is 2 decimal places, right? So just select 2 decimal places and done. So the total GST, 71 cents. Got it? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Next one, right? David wants to, oh yeah, over here, right? As David's shops begin to offer a wider selection of snacks, the spreadsheet also wants to have a search feature. Okay, so the search feature is right here in the F1, F2. So we'll key in F1 Oreo, F2 is where we put a formula. And what do they want to return? We want to return the quantity sold. All right, we can do that. Okay, so we're going to use index match. Okay, they're quite useful. But if you're worried about index match, we can always do the match first, just to keep things simple, right? So we do the match first. What we want to do is we want to match F1, okay, and we want to match it with this portion over here, the range from A5 to A10, right? Look for the word Oreo there. And the match type we want is exact, okay, because no, if it's spelled wrongly, that's too bad, right? So exact match. So I go put 0 here, okay. And this should give me the row number. So I can see Oreo, it give me row 1. If I change it to ice cream, right? If I change it to ice cream, it gives me row 2. If it goes to Hello Panda, here, sorry, Hello Panda, it should give me row 5. Looks good, right? So this is the match. But what we really want to is to combine this with the index. So what does index do, right? So index, what we can do is we want to first have the reference. So index, okay, this section over here, this is where we want to look for. Okay, let's select the table. We index. So this is the area where we want to look for the answer that we want. And then the row number is actually this one over here, right? Where we have our match. So we can just type G2, I mean, just put G2 first. And then we want to return the value. What value do we want to return? We want to return the quantity sort. So looking at it, the quantity sort is in which column? Column 3. So I put column 3, right? And that should give us the solution. So Hello Panda, we have 72, right? So if I change this to back to Oreos, we should expect to see 108, and yes, it's 108. But of course, we want to put the formulas together. We don't want this extra G2 over there. So I can just copy this, right? Copy whatever's in G2. And then we go here and we replace the G2 with the formula itself, paste it, and we're done. Okay, and we can remove this. We no longer need it. So that way we can do, divide and conquer, right? So it makes things very neat if you're worried. So it's working now. Okay, so we are done with that. Let's move on to the next task. Next task, we are moving on to the bottom half of the spreadsheet. So in the bottom of the spreadsheet, David wants to create an item ID for each item. And the conditions is this, okay? The item ID consists of two parts. The first part consists of 3 characters. And then the second part consists of a random 1-digit integer. So one way we can do this is to actually, concat both parts, right? So you go concat both parts. And the first part, we want the first 3 characters. So what we can do is we use the formula left, right? So first 3, we start counting from the left. So left of Chocopie, right? And we want 3 characters. So that's for the first part, left. So we have our 3 characters by doing this. And then we want a random 1-digit integer. So to do that, we can just use random. So rand between is good. Rand between is suitable. And then we want the range from 0 to 9. Okay. So when we do that, we will return a number from 0 to 9. And voila. So we have Choco 3 over here, right? Copy it down. Okay, it should randomize. Looks good, right? Check, looks good. So we are done. So let's move on to the next task. Now the next task is a bit challenging, but let's be patient. Let's walk through this together. So David wants to restock his item, okay, for sale until he has at least 1,000 pieces, right? So what happened is if it is 1,000 piece, okay, we want to display a 0, right? It doesn't 1,000 or more, we'll display a 0. So when we look at this, we know that this column here at F18, F19, F20, as well as F24, they should display 0. So we can sort that out. And how about the rest? If it's not, well, if it's not, we are supposed to actually enter a formula to determine the minimum price you need to spend. And to get the minimum price, we actually need to match it with the last table at the bottom here, because he restocked by buying in batches of 100, 200, or 500 here. So we need to actually match the difference between the stock remaining with 1,000 to these batch sizes, right? So let's do it step by step. So the first thing I can do is to make things cleaner. I'm just going to put if, right? So if this value over here, okay, is more than or equals to 1,000, right? Then I'm going to just put 0. Otherwise, I'm going to do something, but I leave it blank for now. Okay. So why I do this is so that I can see quite clearly that these rows will be 0, and I'm correct at least on that point. So now, what information do we need? Of course, the first information we need is the difference between the 1,000 and the stock remaining. So I can just find the difference. So the difference here is as you can see, 115, and then after that, those that are negative, I can safely ignore. Then 350, 422. See, they're fine, right? So I got the difference. What can we do with the difference? We are going to match it with these three cells over here, from D29 to F29. Okay, so what we can do here, we do match, right? And the value that we look up is going to be over here, the difference. So I'm just going to put G17 for now. Later I can copy over, right? So G17, copy over later. And I'm going to look up here, right? From D29 to F29. Now, take note that later I'm going to copy down the rows. So if that's the case, but I'm going to fix it to this 500, 200, 100. So at this point, it's a good idea to also lock it. So I'm going to lock it. Okay, so I put a dollar sign to lock it so that when I copy down the row later, it doesn't get messed up, right? And then after that, the match type. Now, we don't want exact match now because if I try to search for 115 among these three cells, I won't find it. But I will want to actually look for is greater than, right? I want to look for the value that's greater than because I want to buy more. So my batch size is actually more than what I need. So I'll put the negative one for greater than. Okay, so I'll do that. And as you can see, if I need to stock up 115, I need to buy a batch of 200. And yes, that is in the second column, so it's correct. Copy down. I can double check for the rest. Those that are negative, I can safely ignore. So for this, I need to stock up 350, so I will buy batch of 500. This one, this row, Oreos, I need to stock up 2, so I'll buy from batch size of 100. And for salted eggs chip, I need to stock up 422. That means I need to buy batch size of 500. So the column is correct. So it's good. Okay. So now that we got our match done, let's look at our index. Okay. So index, what happened now is index, we are going to look at this portion over here, right? So highlight. This is the entire range we are looking at. Okay. Now for the row, I'm just going to put one row, right? Because we're going to look at row by row. Because now we are actually comparing the column. So the row is fine. It's just return the first value. As for the column number, I'm going to select the cell that contains our match, right? So when we do that, okay, we have 7 here. And then we copy down, okay. Now we can safely ignore those that's supposed to be 0. So it's fine. Okay, we don't have to worry too much about those. Otherwise, the rest you can see is quite correct. For Choco Pie, well, I'm going to buy batch of 200, so it's 7. Then for Milo packets, okay, I need to buy stock up of 100. When you look at the table here, Milo packet 100. Okay, 20. Is that a mistake? Okay, sorry. My mistake, I see wrongly, right? So first column is this one. I need to buy the 520. It's good, it's good. Okay. And Oreo column 3. Column 3, just now I was looking at the wrong column. Column 3 is for Oreos, yes, it's 5. Okay, it looks good, it looks good. So now to combine everything together, okay, so I'm going to select the match, okay. And actually, okay, let's start from here, right? So this 1000 minus D17, I'm going to copy it and I'll replace it with the G17 over here, right? So let's just copy it, okay? So it gets updated, okay? So copy it down. Now I don't need this. Sorry, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this anymore, okay? And over here, I collect the match, copy this, come back here. Okay, what I want to replace is H17, right? H17. So I'm going to paste this, right? And it's fine. Then I'll copy it down. So after I copy it down, I don't need this anymore. Okay. Finally, for this one, okay, I'm going to copy the index. This time around coming here, this is the portion, right? The third column. What happened when it is less than 1000? This is where I'm going to replace it with the whole index portion. Okay. And then if I copy it down, it gets updated. I don't need this anymore. There we go. Successful. Is that the last task? Oh, yes, it's the last task. So I hope you managed to understand how this thing works by following along. Wish you success and continue to excel. Have a nice day.